but can actually get out of hand pretty quickly post board as well. Chalice is good. Goblin Guide reveals Thought Knots here, which is a very strong card if John has another Eldrazi Temple. He's a waste, though. He really wants a Matter Reshaper. Unfortunately, he doesn't have it, so this is going to be a tough game for him. Braiden shocks himself, had to think about it a little bit. I mean, John was always going to crack his map, but now he's especially going to crack that map because that is not good. That's not a good draw. Going to find another Temple, I assume, because he has a Reality Smasher and a Thought Knot Seer in hand. Thought Knot Seer can do a lot of work in this matchup. Burn actually struggles to remove that off the board without at least 2-for-1ing themselves, even with the draw on the Thought Knot, so it's it can be big. I think Braiden's hand is literally just all gas, though. Gonna see Thought Knot come down here. Braiden's likely to respond with the Boros Charm. Drop John down to 12. Of these cards, Skullcrack actually doesn't do a lot. He might be inclined to take Riftbolt, as weird as it is, because it's the one thing that lets Braiden make 2 plays next turn. And I think 2 plays are how John's going to lose this game. So my guess is that you take Riftbolt and leave Braiden on just the ability to cast 1 burn spell a turn. Lightning Helix doesn't really matter because you're not that worried about the clock, I think. Searing Blaze isn't very good and gets worse if Braiden plays a land and then doesn't play it next turn. I'm in favor of the Riftbolt. All the rest of these cards are too similar. There's an argument maybe for Searing Blaze because if he attacks with Goblin Guide and plays his land, then you're trading your Thought Knot. But I think you want him to make that trade. Yeah, I like this pick a lot. I like that pick a lot. That's really heads up from John. Braiden should have that Riftbolt exiled, but it's not going to matter. I'll see if I can get my spotter to fix that, but neither player it matters for their decks, but it is important to keep things clean. Yeah. Braiden rip Lightning Bolt off the top, as we've come to expect having watched him play Burn. Gonna shock himself down to 16. Gets to Searing Blaze the Thought Knot, which will get him a draw. To make John fall to 9. And now that Braiden's ripped the Lightning Bolt off the top, he's literally just looking for land. And then he can play his 2 mana burn spells next turn after Lightning Bolting his face. John drew a Mind Stone, which is pretty bad here. I think he has Wormcoil Engine in hand, but it's not an Eldrazi, so unfortunate. He can play the Mind Stone and then he'll be able to cast it next turn, and he can still cast a Reality Smasher, which interestingly enough might have to be back on blocks. It is not. We don't play that way. To be fair, John doesn't know there's a Bolt in hand. I'm just going to drop him to 6. Braiden has Goblin Guide and a Skullcrack. If he has a land and then another burn spell, he's just going to win the game. Yeah, drew his land, as it is. So John's going to lose this game. But Reality Smasher attacking didn't matter either way. I think it's correct to attack with it, to be fair. You have to fade your opponent just drawing gas, and Braiden just drew probably 3 best possible. Maybe Goblin Guide isn't the best one, but it also opened up an avenue to win the game through creature damage. So I honestly think Braiden's 3 draws there were just absolutely absurd. John did a good job trying to navigate that game through Braiden's already very strong draw, but you're not beaten. You take the 1 mana burn spell it takes a turn to cast, and he draws the actual Lightning Bolt when you take it. after your creature dies. It's rough. So it's going to be game 1 to Braiden on burn. Matchup gets more interesting here now. The Eldrazi Tron deck is the one that gets a lot better. The burn deck, burn never gets that much better after sideboard. A lot of what burn does after sideboard is trying to counter what other people are doing after sideboard, and it does tend to make their deck a little bit weaker. It's a necessary evil, but that is what tends to happen. We'll see what John's sideboard's like today as well. You do have to want to beat burn as Eldrazi Tron. It's not one of those decks that you can just throw some kitchen finks into and be like, well, this is good in grindy matchups and against burn. This is one where you have to really decide, like, I would like to have a sideboard of some variant for burn. So he has Basilisk Collar, Batterskull. Neither of those are super exciting. Basilisk Collar is very good with Ballista. I'd be looking for like a Warping Whale, or Ratchet Bomb's good. Ratchet Bomb's a good card. The thing is, I think he's not boarding out all his dusts. Maybe he is. I saw Ulamog. I couldn't see if he got the 2 copies of all his dusts. I assume he only plays 2. I think Warping Whale is a good card because it can provide a Scion for ramp or blocking in the worst case scenario if you don't have a target, but it also can get a Swift Spear early, which is pretty big. John's going to have the play, which is important for sure. The thing with burn is that they can lose game 2 almost all the time if they won game 1 and have a very good chance to win the match, because them going first is so drastically different than them going second. John really wants another land at least. Okay, that's 2 pieces of Tron, I think. So he's probably just keeping that. He's got Ratchet Bomb for turn 1. He's got Chalice of the Void on 1 for turn 2. Seems good to me. I can't tell if he's using 2 different artworks. I can never tell with Tron. Those could be the same 2 Tron pieces, which would be why he'd be thinking so hard about this. Otherwise, you'd snap keep it if it was 2 different pieces of Tron. Like that's never a mulligan. With a hand like that, you have 2 of your best cards in the matchup. I'll have to go back and see. I can't tell. If he's playing matching Tron cards, I think that's a really big mistake on mulligan. Yeah, this hand's like okay, but it's so much worse against burn. Like, I don't know what he was looking for. Even if it was the same 2 Tron pieces, like, that hand's too good to ship. Now he's just got a mediocre hand. Oh, he drew Chalice again, which is a snap keep on top for sure. Yeah, if it's the unique ones, Sean, I assume they were the same pieces of Tron, but I still think he's supposed to keep that hand. Ratchet Bomb into Chalice of the Void is... It really shores up anything that could go wrong. To be fair, this hand's good for him. Like, he's going to be able to play Chalice on 1, which will kind of stunt Braiden's ability to kill him. I think Braiden has at least 2 Lightning Bolts in hand. And so he's going to have to find Destructive Revelry very quick. He does still get the Prowess triggers if he casts them into the Chalice, worth noting. He can have his spells countered and it'll still trigger his Swift Spear Prowess. So at worst case scenario, and this is pretty bad, but they could be 1 point extra. I just ripped Destructive Revelry off the top. I don't know if I've ever seen Braiden miss a draw step, but if I have, it was a long time ago. This is sick. So sick. Okay, we're not going to cast it. He must have another fetch in hand. So Braiden's going to go to 17. John should be at 19. My mistake for missing it. Boros Charm You. John goes down to 15. Swift Spear attacks. John goes down to 13. Now, this is a good turn for Braiden, but he better have Green Source or else I think this is a big mistake. I mean, you could have gotten that trigger off the Destructive Revelry if you just played it that turn, right? Are we racing? Yes, we are. 5-ya. I mean, it has the word haste on it. You're just playing. Does he have another one? Oh, he's Endbringer. That's pretty good. So of note, I don't think Braiden has the land he needed to Destructive Revelry. So Braiden goes up to 14. John goes down to 10. He'll go down to 8 from the Swift Spear attack. But he's going to have Endbringer on defense. I think Braiden not fetching to Destructive Revelry is going to cost him this game. I think I play the Endbringer here. He can't attack through that. You have Chalice on 1. You can't path it. And then the next turn you can play a Ballista to close the game out. And you just get in there, yeah. Braiden goes down to 9. He's dead next turn. Yes, I do enjoy quoting Mr. Bean on stream. That's definitely something I try and do as often as I can. Glad that we have that opportunity. Braiden needs to draw exactly... I think it's too late. See, if he fetched that green source, he would have been able to Destructive Revelry. I mean, he wouldn't have been able to cast Boros Charm. I mean, that doesn't do anything. He has to pass. Ballista should be it. I guess Ballista won't do it. Oh, he can just all his dust. Yep. That's game. Wow. I know that Boros Charm is a strong card, but if there's a card on the table that has made 4 cards in your hand dead, which I'm pretty sure is what happened to Braiden, he had at least Path and 2 bolts, I think. You get rid of that card, and you hope you draw the white source later. I mean, he would have dealt almost the exact same damage that turn too. Like, not quite, but very close. As it turns out, he wasn't going to find a white spell or a white land. But I mean, he would have been closer. Like, he would have had Bolt. I don't know. We're in for a quick game 3. These guys don't mess around. I appreciate that. John really wants just a Tron land here. Any Tron land. Oh, this hand's bad. If he draws a second land, this hand's very good. But it's against burn. It's just, you're not going to have time to keep this. If you didn't keep that hand in game 2, there's no way you keep this one. Braiden's hand, he plays his a little bit tighter, so I can't quite see. I know he has a couple lands and spells, which is all you're really looking for in burn. Oh, John, you're not going to do it, are you? His hand just doesn't do anything. Yeah, good call. Good call. Very good call. Yeah, Sean, that's what I was thinking. He misses 2 points total, but gets a card off the table that is restricting a large portion of his hand. And because you don't know you're going to miss white for 4 turns, having Path to Exile available is pretty appealing too, just on the chance you draw fetch. He fetched twice that game. I think he fetched a mountain the first turn. If he fetched it, then obviously you'd regret what happened there. But if he didn't, then no sweat. This hand's way, way better for John. I think he's a Basilisk color on top. I mean, you boarded it in. Braiden's going to get him with the Swiss Spear. Gotta love Burns' redundancy. So a lot to be said for just doing the same thing always. Braiden's hand's a little land heavy, I think. Skull crack, yeah. John goes to 16 and then goes to 14 on the Swiss Spear attack. We have a good start for Braiden. This next turn is going to be key for him. Ooh. Oh. Ooh. Second Temple. Oh my. If only Batterskull was an Eldrazi card, right? So it's likely that the Searing Blazes aren't in Braiden's deck anymore, which makes this Reshaper a big problem. Braiden's got to have another spell he wants to cast this turn. Okay. Chalice. It's possible you just equip the Basilisk Collar this turn. But it's weird, because if you do that, then Braiden's obviously just going to Riftbolt the Reshaper. You've time walked yourself, and he gets triggers. Oh, and he's Skullcrack in hand. I think Chalice for one's a very strong play here. But 2 mana, like Chalicing next turn with the land would also be great. So it's tough. It's really tough. I like this. This either gets Braiden to use a burn spell that it wasn't going to trigger prowess, which is what happens. Is John dead? He's close. There's Lightning Helix, Riftbolt, and a Swiss Spear in play. I think it's just a land in deck. But if Braiden draws a burn spell, I think John just dies. 8. Trigger. Yeah, just any spell. Oh, yeah, of course. There it is. Drew the win. Yep. There it is. 2 quick games.